experience in public works and solid waste management programs. In his current role as Senior Administrative Analyst, Harold's duties include the development of commodity-based programs like curbside recycling, composting, and household hazardous waste collection programs. Harold also manages franchise hauler contracts and customer service programs for the city. We're pleased you could join us today, Harold.
Thank you, Mary. Before I start my presentation, I'd like to first say a word to Peter. Peter, who called in earlier on your other panel, I want to give you a call at 826-5967. I think I can help him out with the recycling problem.
Good. What area code?
Area code 909.
Okay. Maybe repeat that when you're done with the talk.
Okay, great. As an operator of its own municipal solid waste collection program, Riverside was able to move quickly to meet the 8939 diversion goals. But our number one task was to provide the service without increasing the costs to our customers. First, Riverside did what most communities did throughout the state of California by examining its waste through the state-imposed waste characterization, waste generation studies. From there, Riverside discovered that over 30% of its material was green waste, residential green waste. So while other communities throughout the state pushed for a curbside collection of cans, bottles, and glass, Riverside implemented a green waste recycling program. And what you realize is that in 1990, Riverside did not have any type of residential curbside recycling program. So immediately, by doing the green waste program, we received a 20% diversion rate. And also, the best thing about this is Riverside saved over $500,000 by implementing a green waste recycling program. Because the city collected residential trash twice a week, we simply designated one day for green waste and one day for trash, resulting in no additional operation costs and saving the city over $500,000. Having saved more than $500,000, Riverside took the money and implemented an automated collection program. Residential trash collection, over the next 5 years, we implemented a 3-can automated collection program that produced, as you can see from the slide, a 51% diversion. So Riverside reported a 57% diversion rate in the last annual report. But with almost 250,000 tons still going to the landfill, we know that there's more work to be done. How do we plan to remove more waste from our landfills? By continuing to utilize our resources within the community. We have community partners that we depend on to help with our environmental efforts. A few of our partners are the county government, school districts, and the Chamber of Commerce. Riverside's County Waste Management Department has played an integral part in the city of Riverside meeting its 8939 goals by implementing a state-of-the-art tonnage tracking system, regional backyard composting, household hazardous waste, and also funding regional solid waste organizations like Western Riverside Council of Governments and the Coachella Valley Association of Governments. We never try to reinvent the wheel in Riverside. We simply try to improve upon existing successful programs. We offer incentives to residents like reduced pricing in backyard composting bins, or other incentives like collecting refrigerators or used tires during household hazardous waste collection programs. We don't create new events. We go to existing successful events like high school football games or used oil recycling programs, community market nights, and auto shows. Riverside's success depends on the community effort, and Riverside prides itself on being an environmentally sound community. Thank you, Mary.
Our next presentation will focus on the Regional Waste Diversion Program developed in Sonoma County. In the video, we will see some of the public and private partnerships that have led to Sonoma County's success in recycling and the cooperative, supportive environment they have developed working together.
Sonoma County is our model regional case study. With a population of 426,000, it reported a diversion rate of 39% in 1998. Most cities in Sonoma County already had curbside collection of recyclables, and there was drop-off recycling at the county-owned transfer stations and landfill. With 9 incorporated cities within its boundaries, Sonoma County realized from the outset that a regional approach would be vital to achieving the mandated goals.
When I first started with the county about 10 years ago, there was a curbside recycling program that had been going on for a number of years. There was also recycling here at the county landfill, as well as drop-off areas throughout the county. So what we wanted to do is take the energy that existed in our diverse cities, come together and meld it into a program that would meet the state's recycling goals. We've got a number of programs, I think, in the landfill itself at the central disposal site. We have the traditional recycling drop-off boxes, but we also have a very advanced reuse area. Not only that, but we have a power plant that uses the landfill gas to create electricity, and that generates 6 megawatts of energy, and that's a wonderful little resource that we're using. We also have a composting program that's one of the largest in the state that converts yard debris and wood waste into useful resources. We have the more traditional tire recycling and appliance recycling. We also have an area on the landfill that is some hard rock that's in the way of the landfill, but we're actually selling that to a local quarry who are using it for construction projects. The county has an advantage, I think, over some of the other communities in that we not only have the authority of AB 939, but we also own the landfill. And that provides a resource for us, not only in the sense that we can reduce waste at the landfill, but it's a source of revenue. In terms of the Waste Management Agency's budget, we're funded through a number of sources. The 3 primary ones are tipping fee surcharge at the landfill. We charge $2 per ton, and because we have about 450,000 tons a year, that generates almost $1 million per year that is used to fund our household hazardous waste collection program and our education program. In addition, we have a composting program. The composting program is paid for by the tipping fees at the disposal sites. The third major area of funding is through the Integrated Waste Management Board. They have block grants for used oil, they have household hazardous waste grants, and we're very thankful that they're able to help us in those areas.
I think that there's a real message that we have that can be delivered on a regional basis that we can't do as individual cities or as a county. So the opportunity to work together to put that message out is what the JPAA is all about. Our strength is in our public education programs. Our strength is in the willingness of our community to participate in the recycle, reuse, and reduction programs that we have.
The approach that Sonoma County uses for its programs is really one that I would consider a model of public-private partnership. The government facilitates a role for the private sector, who are experts at various areas, to perform their own roles.
What they do is they put out a contract so that private contractors with their savvy, know-how in whatever area can bring that into the equation. So the county, the government has the oversight. But because they have the oversight, they can fund this, they can make sure it works the way it's supposed to work. And so it's like this partnership between the government and the private sector. And it really works here.
Sonoma County by 1998 has reached a 39% diversion rate, and the law says that we have to have 50% by the year 2000. It's going to be a challenge to get there. I don't know that we're going to make it exactly by the year 2000, but we're making good progress. We're implementing a number of new efforts that both here at the central disposal site, to make recycling and reuse much more convenient and much more cost-effective, but we're also implementing some other programs throughout the county to help influence behaviors to reduce the waste stream. It's not a matter of convincing people, it's a matter of making sure they have the opportunity. The structure is there for them to be able to recycle and reduce their waste stream.
My personal philosophy is to be able to try and build consensus among the communities that are involved in it and maximize our public education efforts.
Reuse has to do with seeing things in terms of a process rather than a product. So that's what they see when they come here. And they really begin to understand the value of saving things for many reasons, and not just the materials, which is what you do when you do recycling.
We have I call it a mantra of patience and persistence, and I've been suggested I add passion to that as well. But you need to be patient. These changes aren't going to occur overnight. You need to be persistent. You need to keep putting pressure on the system so that people realize that you're going to be there for the long haul. And certainly having the passion makes that all work. It's the fuel that makes it work. So that's my mantra: patience, persistence, and passion.
And our panelist for Sonoma County is the man you just met. He is Ken Wells, Director of the Sonoma County Waste Management Agency. In addition to his duties as director, Ken is also the Integrated Waste Manager for the Sonoma County Public Works Department's Integrated Waste Division and is responsible for the county's landfill and 5 transfer stations which serve county residents. In this role, Ken also regulates 8 private refuse collection companies. Ken's professional background includes 12 years of environmental management with consulting and solid waste companies. Ken, nice to have you here today.
Good morning, Mary. Thank you very much. I'd like to take a few minutes to summarize some of the advantages of a regional program, as well as tell everybody about a couple of our future efforts. I think some of the regional program advantages are certainly things like efficiency. As a group together, we can provide services and perform things in a much more efficient way than any one member could alone. We can actually do more than anyone could do alone. We also have a broad perspective. We're able to look at focus on resource conservation throughout all the media, as well as in terms of the resources, as well as any kind of tools that we need. It enables us to hire professional staff with environmental science backgrounds with full-time focus on resource conservation, as well as use state-of-the-art resources to get that message out. We have a comprehensive outreach and education effort that avoids gaps and overlap in our presentation so we don't duplicate any efforts. Operationally, the cities have authorized the agency to act as a regional agency for the Integrated Waste Board planning requirements, and that in itself reduces waste. Instead of sending in 10 separate documents, we send in one, so that's certainly an efficiency measure we can do. The agency is also blind to jurisdictional boundaries, at least within the county. In our household hazardous waste collection events, regardless of whether you live in Roanoke Park or Santa Rosa, you're able to come to these events, and we serve those communities equally. The operational or process-wise, we have a requirement, I think it's relatively unique, in that all of our programs require unanimous vote, as well as our annual budget. The flip side of that is that this encourages cooperation in a very intense way, and in fact, we have consensus on almost everything we do. And obviously, this requires diplomacy and respect between and among the various members and their staff. In terms of our future efforts, in the residential sector, we're going to be looking at something called community-based social marketing, and we've come upon a book called Fostering Sustainable Behavior. It's written by Doug Mackenzie Moore and William Smith, and this is a social marketing text that is based on science, and it is very valuable. We're finding it to be an extremely useful tool, and I'd like to just describe some of the process we're using right now in our outreach effort. It focuses on how do you achieve behavior changes, and how to do that, not just through education, but through other efforts. I'd like to just sort of describe these. First of all, we've hired a local PR firm to help us with implementing these programs. The first step is to identify the barriers and advantages of a particular behavior that you're trying to achieve. You do this through literature review, what's been done already, as well as local focus groups to find out what people are actually thinking, not what you already think they think. We use observation studies. How do people behave in the community in the behaviors that you're looking for? And finally, implement statistically valid surveys to identify what the behaviors are currently. Then you use tools of behavior change. These include about a half dozen different specific tools you can use. You can look through commitment. People like to be consistent in their behavior. You look for prompts to remind people of the proper behaviors. Look at community norms. Establish that this is what people are expected to do. We do effective communication efforts, incentives, and clearly you have to identify external barriers and remove those in order to be successful in changing behaviors. And finally, you design a pilot project, and in that pilot project, you want to have both a control and a test group. And in that way, you can check your program out, test it, evaluate, repeat until you feel that you're getting the behavior change you're looking for, and then go forward with community-wide implementation. In our particular case right now, we're focusing on paper and yard debris. These materials comprise nearly a third of the waste stream and have existing waste they have existing infrastructure for their diversion. In the commercial sector, we have a number of different aspects that we're focusing on right now. Clearly, one of them, the important ones for Sonoma County, is the multifamily apartments. Right now, they have a disincentive, a barrier to recycling, and that's because they're treated as a commercial account by the haulers. And we're currently working with our communities and our haulers to establish a third billing sector, not just residential and commercial, but a multifamily billing category that will provide recycling as part of the collection service cost. That's going to be hopefully implemented this year. In addition, we're addressing various chambers and trade groups with another tool that we're using, and it's called the Natural Step. The Natural Step is an educational framework developed in Sweden about a decade ago, and it reflects what they call 4 system conditions that are necessary for our culture to be sustainable on the planet. And it's intended to be focused on businesses, and it shows how they can not only be economically profitable, but sustainable in the long haul and be successful as a business. And we're using this framework to couch our presentations to the various business groups around the community. And we've held workshops as well as various other things. The Natural Step is available as I think a very valuable tool, because businesses do use the bottom line as a focus of their decision making. They're very rational decision makers, and this is a rational framework for decision making. The focus for our targets for our commercial sector are the food, wood, and paper. These alone comprise over half the waste stream in Sonoma County, and those are areas that do have existing infrastructure for diversion. And finally, in the commercial sector, we're also looking at a couple of other areas for efforts, and that's the planning and building requirements. One area that we're working on as a county-wide effort is to establish uniform requirements for construction and demolition permits that require recycling plans. We're working with all the cities so there'll be a level playing field for all businesses to operate in the county. And finally, an area that I've found to be very useful recently is the ability to review environmental impact reports. All major projects in the state require environmental impact reports, and if you can get yourself into the review process and look at those reports, identify the uses of materials, suggest that they include recycling as part of the construction or the demolition involved, as well as ongoing recycling once the operation is in place. 2 recent examples that we worked on just this year included a large expansion of a local high school. We included recycling as a part of the construction of that, and then included recycling as part of the programs, as well as a local raceway, and now is doing their under construction, and that will include recycling in both the construction stage and in the operation of the facility afterwards. And I want to thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Ken, for sharing some really great ideas. You've certainly been busy in Sonoma County. Our final presentation is on the city of Thousand Oaks. Now, this is a good example of an average community in California. Thousand Oaks is significant not only for its leadership in recycling, but for its ability to recognize the efforts to improve the environment in their city. Please watch this following video, which will give you some highlights of a suburban recycling model.
Thousand Oaks has a population of 115,000 and reported a diversion rate of 58% in 1998. Thousand Oaks, like many communities in California, had little organized recycling prior to the passage of AB 939. But with proper planning, Thousand Oaks enacted 18 recycling-related policies at the outset.
Well, about that time, I came aboard the City of Thousand Oaks, and it was growing interest. So you had segmented type of collection systems where private companies were collecting in certain neighborhoods. It was really spread out. It wasn't terribly organized. As AB 939 came on board, and we expanded our programs, recycling became a higher priority, whereas prior to that it was perhaps maybe open space or some other environmental issues, but it certainly became a top priority right away.
Before we developed programs, we were very careful about our base year numbers because we knew that that's how AB 939 would be calculated in the future. We also went to our council and adopted 18 policies regarding solid waste that have guided us the last 10 years. We set up a cost recovery system so we'd be able to pay for our programs, and it would be an equitable funding from the commercial and the residential sectors. And we developed good relationships with our haulers who were actually going to be responsible for helping us meet the goal.
Keeping pace with AB 939 has been quite a challenge for our company and all rubbish companies in general. Put in a lot of new programs. That means green waste programs have to go into place, recycling programs of all kinds. I would say that operationally our company has almost doubled what we were doing before.
The main obstacle we've had in the last 10 years has been the yard trimmings program. We wanted to minimize any rate impacts and environmental impacts of having 3 trucks going through every neighborhood collecting refuse, recyclables, and green waste.
These automated collection trucks are excellent because they increase productivity. Instead of having 6 trucks on a route, now we can have 5 trucks on a route. And we can collect more houses, more residents with the same vehicle. So we've been able to decrease the number of trucks that are on a given route.
Something very important to our city is practicing what we preach and encouraging residents and businesses to buy recycled products and use less polluting products. It became a policy of the city to do the same. And while we don't have a price preference in place, we do have an ongoing policy to buy recycled products whenever possible.
For example, here at City Hall, we have many programs throughout the city to reduce waste, and all of our departments are involved. We have a recycling committee. It's called the Source Reduction Committee, and we coin them our recycling pros. It's one person from each department. We meet on a quarterly basis. We find out everybody's needs. Maybe they need recycling boxes for under their desk. Our recycling efforts save the city substantial sums.
We're already moving into other environmental areas, air quality, water quality, and it's very similar to waste reduction. You're trying to do the most environmentally sensitive thing, be the most convenient for your residents, and most cost-effective, so it transfers to other conservation and sustainability issues as well.
Such as an example of that would be low-emission standard type refuse trucks. Clearly that is the direction we'll see in the future, where you'll see less polluting trash trucks. Well, that may not be a priority so much for solid waste, but it certainly would be for a local air pollution control district. Well, when you bring those two together, then you're able to perhaps even include standards or requirements for trash companies to support that effort.
We're moving into a community grants program now, where we're making funding available to community groups. As Graham said, our environmental program started with volunteers, and now we're going to give back funding to volunteers to develop more environmental programs.
Well, it's a true challenge, ongoing challenge, and it's a lengthy process to continue to stay up to date and to educate both the business community and the residential community in every manner possible, whether that's on the internet, whether it's truck signs, citywide mailings, utility bill inserts, theater advertisements, public service announcements, or videos which we produce in-house. We have a local cable channel that we produce award-winning videos and have received a lot of attention for those programs, so it's really a major challenge.
Thousand Oaks shows how a committed local government can facilitate successful recycling programs. The success of Thousand Oaks programs show how other environmental programs, such as air quality and water conservation, can bring us closer to the dream of sustainability.